Hi, I'm Danielle. Welcome to my perfume journal. So, the older I get, the more nostalgic I get for simpler times. And every October, I think back to the excitement of being a kid on Halloween night. My mom was the mom who made all of our costumes by hand. And as soon as it got dark, we'd get out our plastic pumpkins and we'd start traipsing around the neighborhood. And I will never, ever forget the scent that permeated the living room as we rushed back into the house and dumped our riches out onto the floor, and we'd painstakingly separate the good candy from the bad candy. And most of the pile of the good candy was chocolate. Miniature Baby Ruths, $100,000 bars, Marathon bars, Reggie bars, Bar Nuns, O. Henry's. And so this year's October look back got me thinking about chocolate perfumes. So, if you did not already know this about me, I meticulously, some might actually say obsessively, track my perfumes. I track what's in my collection, what I've worn, what I've sampled. I do this in my journal, and I may or may not also have spreadsheets. So, don't judge me. So, I went into this vault of data that I have collected, and I have recorded a total of 61 perfumes that have some kind of a chocolate note in them. Some of them are in my collection, others are perfumes that I have sampled. And for my fellow nerds out there, I had a total of 27 perfumes that had a cocoa note, 17 perfumes with a chocolate note, one perfume with a cocoa and a chocolate note, 9 perfumes with cocoa absolute in them, one perfume with cocoa bean, 4 perfumes with dark chocolate, and one perfume with salted chocolate. And I'm not going to go over all 61 of these perfumes in this video, but I will talk about a good handful of the perfumes that have a chocolate note that I own or have samples of. And some of these perfumes are really, really chocolatey. Others have just a hint of chocolatiness in them to like enhance the overall fragrance. And then there's a couple like oddballs in here. And then I'll finish up the video with the most chocolatey perfume of them all to me, the one that smells exactly like our living room did every Halloween night. So the first chocolate perfume in this video is Cupid's Bow from Darren Allen Perfumes. I have spoken about Darren on my channel many times before. One, because I love featuring and talking about independent perfumes and perfumers that I really admire. Two, Darren is a wonderful human. And 3, this is a really chocolatey perfume. So Cupid's Bow is a chocolate rose perfume. It's like liquid Valentine's Day. But the big surprise of this perfume comes out in the dry down, when the rose kind of fades away and the chocolate is left swirling all around with some really, really full-bodied musks. It's one of those perfumes that feels sort of like dry and silky at the same time in a very unusual way, and it lasts for ages. Darren's style of perfumery is very vintagey, and if gourmands were around 40 or 50 years ago, this is what they would have smelled like. Next up is Bread and Roses from Perfume Parfum, and in this perfume we have bread, cocoa, labdanum, nutmeg, orange, and rose. So, little story, when I was an undergraduate in college, I minored in French, and I had the most wonderful teacher one semester. She was from France, and she invited our whole entire class over to her home to eat French food and watch French films. She was such an amazing teacher, and she really encouraged firsthand an appreciation for French culture through her own experience. And I will never ever forget how she described that kids in France would come home from school every day and they would enjoy a snack. Often it would be a warm baguette stuffed with pieces of chocolate. And every time I smell this perfume, I am transported to a kitchen somewhere in France where there's like a bouquet of fresh roses in a vase by the window and a table prepared for the after school goûter. So this perfume is really about the bread, but you just know that those little nuggets of chocolate are stuffed inside that warm baguette. So next we have Annabelle's Birthday Cake from Marissa Zappas. So Marissa Zappas has a very, very devoted following, and for good reason. Her perfumes are some of the most intriguing, conceptual, evocative scents out there. And instead of being like weird stuff you might only want to sample, I think her perfumes are so wearable. She has figured out the perfect balance of conceptual and wearable. So, Annabelle's birthday cake is a phenomenal gourmand. It is so unique and fantastic. I'm not a super gourmand lover, but this one is really, really special. So, there's like two ways that I can best describe this perfume. The first is kind of literal, and the second is more of like an image that it evokes whenever I smell it. So, on the literal side, the gourmand element of this perfume smells like yellow cake with chocolate frosting, that kind of like classic old fashioned birthday cake combo. But there are some undeniable floral elements to this. There's tuberose and rose, and then there's like a powdery, almondy heliotrope that adds a little bit of like that plasticky doll head scent to this perfume. And that brings me to the more abstract description of this scent. This smells like a birthday party that features one of those Wilton birthday cakes for little kids, the ones that are covered in like star-tipped icing, where the bottom half of the cake is a dress and the top half is a Barbie doll. This is a perfume for people who want to relive the innocence and joy of a childhood birthday party. It is fun and whimsical and lighthearted and sweet, and it smells absolutely fantastic. So next we have Wicked Good from Gallagher Fragrances. This perfume is chocolate, tonka bean absolute, and bourbon vanilla absolute. This is pure, unadulterated, bittersweet chocolate right out of the atomizer. The powderiness of the tonka gives the perfume like a dry texture rather than a creamy one. This smells more like 100% pure cocoa powder than it does like melted chocolate. It is strong and tenacious. It will not require reapplication. And this is just about as chocolatey as you can get in a perfume. And then we have Chocolate Plus from Dame Perfumery by Jeffrey Dame. Allie gave me this sample when we got together over the summer to sniff and swap. And I mentioned to her how much I enjoy wearing chocolate perfumes at bedtime. And she said, "Oh, I have just the thing for you." And she was right. This perfume smells exactly like Nestle Quick. Like, exactly. The notes of this perfume are chocolate. Just chocolate. And that's exactly what it smells like. It smells like chocolate Nestle Quick. So this is Mxxx or Mxxx from ERIS Parfums. The triple X is not because it's naughty, but because it's an amped up version of Mxxx, MX, from the original ERIS collection. So in this perfume, there is cocoa, and the cocoa in this is enveloped in resins and woods and spices. There's frankincense, there's benzoin, ambergris, sandalwood, cedar, vetiver, mace, ginger, saffron, pink pepper, vanilla. And then, because ERIS leans very heavily into that modern vintage genre, there are animalic notes of hyraceum and castoreum. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about these animalics and then tell you why you don't need to be afraid of them in this particular perfume. So hyraceum is a material that's extracted from the petrified waste products of the hyrax. It's one of the few animalics out there that can actually be gathered or harvested humanely, because you can just be like out there looking for these like pee pee poo poo rocks and leave the actual animal alone. And hyraceum has this like fecal odor to it, but when it is dosed well, it just smells kind of like earthy and musky in a perfume. I would say the same is true of ambergris. Ambergris in its natural form can be harvested humanely, as ambergris is essentially a solid substance that's excreted from the belly of the sperm whale. It smells a little bit sweet and a little bit salty. But castoreum, on the other hand, is no longer used in any kind of natural form, very similar to deer musk and civet. The materials are now created almost exclusively through synthetics, and they smell just as horrible as they need to in the small amounts we use them in perfumery to achieve a result that actually smells great. So castoreum comes from the glands of beavers, the castor sacs, They excrete this material in order to mark their territory, and it has a very leathery smell to it. So ERIS Parfums is well known for the animalic nature of their perfumes, but I would say in this one, in Mxxx, the animalics are not at all overwhelming. They exist only to give the overall composition like a little purr or a little growl. I really do not think that this is a stink bomb at all. What I get from this perfume is a warm, spicy, chocolatey, woody perfume. It feels like you had a cup of spiced hot chocolate and you let it cool down just slightly and then you poured it all over yourself. This is not a sweet chocolate, it's more of a cocoa kind of chocolate, but it's just exquisitely done and blended beautifully. And Mxxx is one of those perfumes that is all at once creamy and dry. It's always morphing and changing throughout the wear. Each of the notes come through in their own ways, like they're playing peekaboo with you. And ERIS perfumes are not going to be for everyone, but I think if you're looking to experience some truly artistic and adventurous, but also wearable perfumes, a sample set from them is well worth looking into because these really are some of the best independent perfumes I've ever smelled. And I think that the vision that Barbara Herrmann has for her brand is brought perfectly to life by the wonderful perfumer Antoine Lee. So, moving away from independent perfumery into the designer world, this is Angel Muse from Mugler. Now, this perfume doesn't have an actual chocolate or cocoa note in it like the original Angel does. The note in Angel Muse is hazelnut spread, like Nutella, which is hazelnut and chocolate together. So for me, this definitely fits as a chocolate perfume. So in this perfume, we have some berry notes, the hazelnut spread, and then that woody base. And amping up the chocolate in this scent is that signature chocolatey patchouli in the Angel line. So some patchoulis in perfume can smell like that kind of very earthy patchouli that I associate with like Grateful Dead concerts. Others can be very light and green, and others yet darker and more chocolatey. And that's the patchouli in the Angel line. It's darker and more chocolatey. And I've also described Angel Muse as one of the most perfumey perfumes I own. So when we think about Angel as the fragrance that ushered in the gourmand trend, you can kind of see how it started out as a perfume that smelled like perfume and not like actual food. In fact, Angel Muse to me is the foodiest of all the angels, the least floral and the most chocolatey. But then as time went on and the gourmand trend shifted from perfumey gourmands or fleurmands, we started to get these actual photorealistic food scents. But angels were the line that started it all. So now let's talk about cocoa beans from Monotreme. I blind bought this perfume when I was on the search for a chocolate tuberose perfume. I finally did find one that I love, and I'll share that one next. But this one did not quite fit the bill. So the notes in cocoa beans do not match at all what I think this perfume smells like. They are pear, pink pepper, cocoa, jasmine, amber, benzoin, and patchouli. So I saw that note list and I was like, oh, this is going to be like a warm, ambery, floral, chocolatey perfume. But what I get from this perfume is actually a very aromatic, slightly earthy floral. And for the most part, what I get is the pink pepper, the jasmine, and the patchouli. Maybe a slight bit of tuberose, but it's more of a green tuberose note. Now, I know this video is supposed to be about chocolate perfumes, but I included this perfume in the mix because I wondered as I was smelling this if this is what natural cocoa beans smell like before they're processed into actual chocolate. So I love a good rabbit hole. I started researching, and it turns out that raw cocoa beans or cacao beans, before they are roasted or processed to make chocolate or cocoa powder, they can smell fruity, like a melon, a peach, or a lychee. They can smell floral, like jasmine or rose, and they can even smell a little bit vinegary. And I would say that this is more of what this perfume actually smells like. This is how the cocoa note shows up. So if you're looking into this perfume and you're expecting a true chocolate, based on my research, I would say that what you're actually going to get is the perfume version of raw cocoa beans, cacao beans, or cacao nibs. So here we have Vera Wang's Embrace French Lavender and Tuberose. This is my second bottle of this perfume. This is a perfume that I went on and on about back in the spring after I received it as a gift from the lovely, wonderful Cass from Skin Scents for Fuss Pots. We met up for a coffee and we did some perfume shopping together, and she brought this to me as a gift. And I am forever grateful to her for introducing this to me. So this perfume has a really simple note list. It's mandarin orange in the top, French lavender and tuberose in the mid, and then vanilla and cocoa bean in the base. And the orange and the lavender lend that fresh, almost like soapiness to the perfume. And then the tuberose, the vanilla, and the cocoa give it a creamy, creamy sweetness. I had been looking for a perfume that featured cocoa or chocolate with tuberose, and so far this perfume is the best of the bunch that I've tried in terms of fitting the bill of what I was looking for. So here we have two celebrity scents. So first is Covet by SJP or Sarah Jessica Parker in the squat bottle with the brown cap. Covet smells to me like a dark chocolate bar with little bits of candied lemon that was created by an artisan witch chocolatier who lives in a cabin in the woods. There's a little bit of like swamp witchy quality to Covet, and I have this totally fake made up theory that this perfume was originally called Coven, but they changed it because they didn't think that Coven would sell. And that's my theory, because there is nothing about this perfume that would make you think about coveting or envying or wanting, because this perfume is weird. The notes don't suggest something that smells good. This is not a head turner. It is not something that someone is going to stop you on the street to ask you what you're wearing because they want to know what it is and they want to buy it. As far as chocolate goes, the chocolate note is definitely there. You can pick it out along with the lavender, along with the lemon and the woods, and then the florals, the magnolia, the honeysuckle, they are enhancers. So while this is one of my favorite perfumes with a chocolate note and one of my very, very favorite weirdo scents, I can absolutely see how this one might not be for everyone, and I would definitely recommend sampling before buying. A perfume that could have easily been called Covet, though, is the next one on the stand, and that's Rebelle from Rihanna. In fact, that would have been a better name for this perfume because this perfume is not exactly what I would call rebellious. It smells amazing. It is a head turner. It is something that people might stop you on the street to ask you what you're wearing because they want to run out and buy it immediately. It is delicious. It is seductive. It is alluring. I mean, listen to these notes. It's strawberry, plum, ginger, cocoa, heliotrope, orchid, coffee, musk, amber, and patchouli. It is so fantastic. It's one of those perfumes that I pull out just to like deeply inhale the atomizer, even if I'm not going to wear it that day. It's sweet and woody and spicy and creamy and just a little tiny bit bitter from the coffee. It only requires like one or two sprays because it is incredibly strong and long lasting, and it could easily take over a room. It is an addictive scent that features chocolate. So this is a perfume that I thought I was going to love. This is Mud from Born to Stand Out. I got to choose this bottle when I won a giveaway from BTSO, and this is the one that I picked. Everything about this perfume said that I should love it, and that's why I chose it in the giveaway. It's a Natalie Lorson creation, and the notes are almond, milk, chocolate, Turkish rose, plum, amber, vanilla, sandalwood, and elemi resin. And I was expecting a Flormand, one of my favorite categories of perfume. It sounded great, but this is a good example of why note lists never really tell the whole story of a perfume. So when I looked up and read the notes when I chose this perfume, I should have read the actual brief. This is what it says about it from the BTSO website. Hazy scent of wet soil amidst the rain. The pouring rain cools off the ground. Water fiercely falls from the edge of the roof. Raindrops splash between the grass and the ground turns to mud. The subtle scent of the water, the wet grass, and the muddy ground permeates the air. Now, that is exactly what was achieved in this perfume. This does smell like what the ground smells like right before it's fully dried after the rain. And I do not love earthy, geosmin heavy soil perfumes, but nothing at all about this note list suggests that it would have smelled like this at all. So I include this not so chocolatey perfume with a chocolate note as a cautionary tale. And I'm glad this wasn't a giveaway instead of something that I purchased at a hefty niche price point. So this is the chocolate perfume that does not smell like chocolate. Now a perfume with chocolate that I do love, Adorem from Nez. I have shown this perfume many times on my channel before because I do mostly talk about the perfumes that are in my collection and perfumes that I love, and I will never get tired about talking about this perfume, but I do understand that it can be frustrating when someone talks really enthusiastically about a perfume that can't be found anymore. And so with this, I will be brief, and then at the end, I'll tell you about a perfume that kind of smells like Adorem. So Adorem is the best incense perfume in my entire collection. It's a collaborative passion project between the magazine Nez, perfumer Fabrice Pellegrin, and chef Akrame Benalal. It is frankincense, cocoa, patchouli, and vanilla rooibos tea. It is dusty and dry and resinous and woody, and it is definitely chocolatey, but in like a cocoa powdery kind of way and not at all sweet. So recently, I had a little sniff of Mystic Incense by Merchant of Venice, which is still in production and smells maybe around like 75% similar to Adorem, and it also has a chocolate note. But it's just kind of missing that certain something that I think Adorem has, but it's still really, really good. Incense and cocoa are to me like PB&J. They were meant to go together in a perfume. So this is a perfume that I maybe talked about once before, and I only have this little decant of it, and it's quickly dwindling away. This is Belle Âme by Les Abstraits, an independent brand similar to ERIS in that there's a creative director behind the brand who worked with a perfumer to bring their vision to life. And in the case of Les Abstraits, it also happened to be perfumer Antoine Lee. So Les Abstraits is a Canadian brand. It has 3 perfumes in the line, all of which are well regarded and very well respected by lots and lots of serious frag heads from what I've seen. But Belle Âme is the only one that I've ever smelled, and I can definitely attest that this is a perfume of superior quality. And I just want to add a little caveat here that I do not say that from any kind of like a snobbish standpoint. I think perfume is for everyone, that there is no right or wrong when it comes to what we consider to be a good perfume. I love all kinds of perfumes, affordable perfumes, designer, niche, vintage, celebrity, you name it. I have it, I'll wear it. If I like it, I think it's good. But I can definitely tell when I notice that a perfume contains really high quality ingredients or materials, and I have to give those perfumes their props. And Belle Âme is one of those perfumes. So Belle Âme, which means beautiful soul, is essentially an orris perfume. It's orris root, iris, ginger, cocoa, frankincense and cardamom, sandalwood, musk, vanilla, and tonka. It is at the same time dry and buttery, and I really love it when a perfume gives you like 2 textures in one. I think that's an amazing example of the alchemy of perfumery and the talent of perfumers. And the standout note in Belle Âme is indeed the orris butter. The orris butter is in this like deep, long embrace with the cocoa. It is so wonderful. Now, this is going to sound a little bit weird, but as this perfume dries down, it gives me the sensation or the scent of what I call a licked arm. And I have no idea how I know what a licked arm smells like, nor can I say I've ever smelled a licked arm, an actual licked arm, but that's what I get from this perfume. And so even though I love this perfume, I love the ingredients, the quality, the texture, the scent. The only reason I think I've never actually splurged on a bottle of this is because of that deep, deep dry down, that licked arm thing that comes out at the end. So what I do is I usually wear this one to bed when I can enjoy it right up until it hits the licked arm stage. And by then, I'm sound asleep. I will say though that if this perfume came in a 30 ml bottle, I would 1000% buy it because it is truly excellent and I would love to wear this frequently at night. Another favorite bedtime perfume of mine is Sorriso from Perfumum Roma, but I have a 1 spray rule with this one. It is incredibly, incredibly powerful and can be a little bit too much at bedtime if you're not careful. So Sorriso, like all of Perfumum Roma's scents, is a very simple note list. It's dark chocolate, vanilla, woods, and orange. And to me, this perfume smells like orange chocolates, dark orange chocolates, before they actually add the sugar to the chocolate. It almost has like a boozy quality to it because everything about this perfume is so intense. It has a very oily kind of texture, both figuratively and literally. Like when you put on a Perfumum Roma perfume, it looks like you've put on an actual perfume oil. The oils just kind of like glisten on your skin. And I never ever spray these perfumes on clothing because they can stain or leave a mark, especially this one, which has really darkened up even more over time. So Sorriso is a perfume for the gourmand lovers who want their gourmands to be a little bit less on the sweet side. This is how I like my gourmand perfumes, and it is one of the best chocolate perfumes I have ever tried. And finally, we have Over the Chocolate Shop from 4160 Tuesdays, created by the one and only Sarah McCartney. This perfume is chocolate, coffee, hazelnut, and vanilla, and it is delicious. The perfume was inspired by the smell of a friend's apartment that was over a chocolate shop. This is literally the smell of melted chocolate. Like you get that fatty, almost oily quality in this that you find in cocoa butter. And then the coffee and the hazelnut are just sort of like beneath the surface, as if the chocolate shop were situated like next to a cafe, wafting the scent of steaming hot coffee sweetened by cream and hazelnut syrup in the direction of the chocolatiers. And while a lot of the other perfumes that I've talked about in this video are very, very chocolatey, this one is the perfume that captures the memory of the joy and the happiness we felt as kids every year on Halloween as we dumped our pumpkins and carefully selected which piece of candy would make its way into our lunchbox the next day. Those pieces of candy were like kid cred. You'd sit at lunch together, you'd compare your candy, you'd maybe make like an under the table trade or two, and you'd be completely exhausted from running up and down porch steps all evening in homemade costume in the crisp fall air. This, this is why perfume is often so much more than something that just makes you smell nice. It is a portal back in time. It stirs up all of the memories that we hold dear. And this perfume, Over the Chocolate Shop, it is one of those perfumes that memories are made of. So there we have it, a lineup of some of the chocolate perfumes that I have sniffed and worn. I will list every single one of the 61 chocolate perfumes that I've tried and recorded in my spreadsheet, and I'll include what the prominent chocolate note is in the perfume. Just in case you're interested in checking out other chocolate scents, you can maybe use this as a reference point. And of course, I would love to hear your recommendations for other chocolatey perfumes. Thank you so, so much for watching, for spending your time here with me, and for chatting perfumes with me in the comments. I hope you have a really great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.